The rain had been falling all morning, not a heavy storm, not the kind that forces you to run for shelter, but that slow, steady rain that seeps into your shoes, that makes the cold settle in your bones. Daniel stood at the empty bus stop, his shoulders hunched, holding a worn paper envelope in his hand. It wasn't thick, it wasn't heavy. It was his last paycheck. Inside, enough money for one more week of food and rent. After that, he had no idea. The bus was late. The wet wind pushed against him, as if trying to remind him he didn't belong here anymore. And for some reason, right then, standing under that leaking bus shelter, Daniel realized he had run out of plans. 2 months ago, life had been simple. Daniel worked as a delivery driver for a local company. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't easy, but it was steady. 5 days a week, he'd start his route at dawn, delivering packages, smiling at customers, and then, one Friday afternoon, the boss called everyone into the warehouse. The speech was short, the company had gone bankrupt. Everyone was being let go. Daniel remembered the awkward clapping, the false good luck wishes, everyone trying to hide the panic in there. Eyes dot at first, Daniel believed he'd find something else quickly. He put on his cleanest shirt, printed resumes, and went door to door at shops and offices. But days turned into weeks. Every time the phone rang, he hoped it was a job offer. It never was. His savings vanished faster than he expected. The rent reminder slipped under his door. The food in his kitchen grew scarce. He started to sell things, his television, his old guitar, the coffee table his father had given him years ago. And with each item gone, the apartment felt emptier. Colder. Friends stopped calling. They stopped replying to messages. Daniel understood. People were busy with their own problems, but the silence was heavy. It followed him even when he stepped outside. The bus finally arrived with a hiss of brakes. Daniel stepped on, dripping rainwater onto the rubber floor. The seats were mostly empty. He sat next to an older man, late 60s, maybe with silver hair and a face lined by years of work. The man carried a bag of groceries. The man glanced at Daniel's wet clothes and asked quietly, "Rough day?" Daniel gave a short laugh. Rough month, and for reasons Daniel couldn't explain. The words kept coming. He told the man about losing his job, about the failed applications, about being down to his last paycheck. The man listened. Really listened. When the bus slowed for the man's stop, he stood, holding the rail. He looked down at Daniel and said, "I run a small repair shop. It's not much, but I could use some help. If you're willing to work hard, you can start tomorrow." Daniel blinked. A stranger, offering him work. The man handed him a small card. The paper was soft at the edges, the ink slightly faded. Harris & Son Repair Shop. Before Daniel could say a word, the man stepped off the bus and disappeared into the rain. That night, Daniel stared at the card for hours. Was it real? Was it safe? Was this just some cruel joke? But the next morning, with nothing else to lose, Daniel got on the bus again. And for the first time in weeks, he felt a flicker of hope. The repair shop was small, tucked between a bakery and a bookstore. The bell above the door jingled as Daniel stepped inside. The air smelled of engine oil, sawdust, and coffee. "Mr. Harris," the man from the bus greeted him with a nod. "You showed up good. Let's get to work." The work was hard, dirty. Daniel swept floors, cleaned tools, carried heavy boxers. He learned how to replace a bicycle chain, how to fix a loose door hinge, how to patch a leaky pipe. Every day his hands grew rougher, but his heart felt lighter. One afternoon, a customer left a small envelope on the counter. Daniel noticed it. When he was cleaning, it was filled with cash, more than he'd made in weeks. No one had seen it. No one would know. His rent was due. His fridge was nearly empty. The envelope felt warm in his hands, but then he remembered the man who had offered him a job without asking for anything in return. And slowly, he walked outside and called after the customer. The man turned, surprised. Daniel handed him the envelope. "You forgot this." The man smiled. "You're honest? That's rare these days." 2 weeks later, the same man returned to the shop. He wasn't there for repairs. I run a small logistics company, he said to Daniel. We need someone reliable that pays better than here. Harris speaks highly of you. And just like that, a door opened. Months later, on a rainy night, Daniel found himself back at that same bus stop. This time, his pockets were not empty. His rent was paid, and there was someone else there now, a young man. Shivering, clutching a bag that looked far too light for a long journey, Daniel stepped closer and said, "Rough day." The young man nodded, eyes down. Daniel smiled. "I might know someone who can help you out." Sometimes, the moments that change our lives don't arrive with warning. Sometimes, they step off a bus, carrying a bag of groceries. And sometimes, the smallest kindness can start a chain reaction that lasts a lifetime. And now, before we end, here are some phrasal verbs from today's story. Learn them to make your English stronger. Let go. To lose a job or be dismissed from work. Turn into. To change into something else. Slip under. To quietly place or put something somewhere. Step off. To leave. A bus, train, or vehicle. Show up. To arrive somewhere. Get to work. To begin working. Hand over. To give something to someone. Run out of. To have no more of something. Hold on to. To keep something instead of losing it. Help out. To assist someone. Give back. To return something to its owner. Look down. To lower your eyes, often in sadness or shame.